So the 49ers have done it again. They've picked up a big name midstream. This time it is Randy Gregory, the edge rusher who actually already is a big part of 49ers history. You might remember him from the Dallas Cowboys in 2021. He hit Jimmy Garoppolo. He hurt Jimmy Garoppolo's shoulder. That had big time ramifications, probably in the positive overall for the 49ers because they weren't able to trade Jimmy. Jimmy returned in 2022, built the bridge to Brock Purdy. Well, all that traces back to Randy Gregory's good pass rushing. This guy has been a force in the NFL, and the 49ers just picked him up today from the Denver Broncos. We're going to have some tape of Randy Gregory. Here's a sneak preview. That's Sam Darnold at quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. We'll take a look at that in a little bit, but we also have the written article on Randy Gregory and the 49ers acquisition. That is available for you right now in the description here on The Athletic. So everybody welcome in. I know it's going to be a big show. I know that I've already talked about this from the 49ers team facility. Now I've made the drive back to San Francisco where it's Fleet Week. It's 85 degrees and the 49ers are getting ready to play the Cowboys on Sunday. But first, they have brought an ex-Cowboy into the fold. The trade was with Denver because Gregory played the first 7 seasons of his career with Dallas. Then he signed for big money with the Denver Broncos ahead of the 2022 season. Had a good campaign last year before he got hurt. Returned this year to the Broncos on the second year of that big deal. And it didn't start out well for Randy Gregory, but it wasn't good at all for this Denver team, right? So Denver might be entering fire sale mode right now. They were willing to part with Randy Gregory. News came earlier this week that they were planning to release him, but the 49ers essentially cut in line of the rest of the league. And I cannot believe that nobody else had the presence of mind to do what the 49ers did. And they've done the same thing twice now, at least twice now. Go back to Zane Gonzalez, the kicker for Carolina. Carolina picked up a different kicker. It was clear that Zane Gonzalez was going to be on his way out. Everybody thought that it was going to be a release for Zane Gonzalez. 49ers picked up the phone. They called Scott Fitterer, the GM of the Carolina Panthers, and they said, hey, don't release him. Why don't we do a lower level trade for him? 7th round pick swap in the case of Zane Gonzalez. Same thing happened here. Lynch picks up the phone, calls George Payton, GM of the Denver Broncos, and says, hey, don't release Randy Gregory. Why don't we do a 6th, 7th round pick swap for him? Nothing to lose for the 49ers here and nothing to lose for the Denver Broncos. If anything, Denver, I think, wants to create the impression PR-wise. They need good PR because they're, really lugged down by Russell Wilson's huge contract. They're 1-3. They need to create the impression PR-wise that they're not just punting Randy Gregory for nothing. That's what a release would be. So they get something in return for Randy Gregory, more of a headline than anything. From a tangible point of view, the 49ers are chipping out a 6th round pick, which will be a late 6th round pick because they're good. And the Broncos will be sending back a high 7th round pick because they suck. So this might be a matter of only a few picks for the 49ers, dropping from the late 6th to the early 7th round. And hey, maybe the 49ers just wanted to pick up an extra 7th round pick because that's where they found Brock Purdy. We know the 49ers can make hay with these late round selections, but the 49ers, their 2024 NFL draft and the plan surrounding that draft remains completely intact, even with Randy Gregory and this trade now on the books. By the way, the corresponding move for the 49ers, they released Kerry Hyder Jr., so he's a player that's done a lot for them over the years. Maybe they try to re-sign him to the practice squad. I think that they'll try, right? But the question is, will they be able to? Because Kerry Hyder might be sought after by other football teams who need a defensive lineman. Hyder had been so versatile for the 49ers inside and out. This year, he was playing a lot of defensive end. Previous years, we'd seen him at defensive tackle. In 2020, we saw him at end after Nick Bosa went down and was actually the 49ers team sack leader. But the bottom line from this pickup of Randy Gregory is that the 49ers just added a pass rusher who's delivered top 10 pass rush metrics in his career. Take a look at this. This is pass rushing productivity measured by Pro Football Focus. This is going to count sacks, pressures, quarterback hits, and it's going to put everything into a formula that considers how many pass rushing snaps a player had, so it gives us a good rate. It's not just a raw total. This is Gregory's ranking amongst qualifying edge rushers. There are usually about 55 qualifying edge rushers in the NFL every season. 2018 with Dallas, number 27. So he was a mid-level edge rusher that year. Suspended in 2019 for the substance abuse policy violation. Back in 2020, and that's when Randy Gregory turned into a real force. Pass rushing productivity of 8.5. That ranks number 8 amongst all edge rushers. So 8 out of about 55 edge rushers. That's obviously really good. Turned around and was even better in 2021, although he ranked a little bit lower, number 10. So this earned Randy Gregory a contract with the Denver Broncos because it expired with the Dallas Cowboys after 2021. Signed with Denver, big money, 5 years, $70 million before this 2022 season. And look at this. Over the 6 games before he got hurt in 2022, Gregory posted the metrics of a top 5 edge rusher. Again, a top 5 edge rusher. So maybe this, I mean, it was only 6 games, so I don't want to go crazy about it, but he was top 10 in 2020 and 2021, top 5 in 2022, then he got hurt. The concern obviously is here in 2023 that through 4 games, Gregory has been a bottom level edge rusher, but it's only through 4 games. He's also coming off the knee injury, and the 49ers saw enough here to take the flyer on Randy Gregory, because anytime you get your hands on an edge rusher who's put up top 10, let alone top 5 metrics in the not so distant past, you try to take it. And the 49ers were able to add this type of pass rusher in Randy Gregory essentially for free. That's the key here. Essentially for free. The 49ers are only paying $840,000 of Randy Gregory's salary, plus they have team control through 2026. I could illustrate how this works for you if we take a look at Randy Gregory's contract on Over the Cap. But it's a lot similar to what the 49ers inherited with Christian McCaffrey's contract last season. Obviously, this won't be quite as high profile of an addition as McCaffrey, but the same principles still apply. So what happened is the 49ers took over Randy Gregory's contract here in 2023. Base salary, $1.08 million. They only owe him the prorated portion of that hasn't been paid yet. So you divide $1.08 million divided by 18 weeks, and then you multiply whatever you get by 4, because the Broncos had already played 4 games. The Broncos pay that 4 weeks, or those 4 weeks against the cap. The 49ers pay the rest against the cap. That's $840,000 guaranteed. That's right there. I have $840K at the bottom of the screen as well. Then he's under contract in 2024, 2025, and 2026. You can see the base salaries, $13.74 million, $12.74 million, $12.74 million. But look at this. None of that is guaranteed. So the 49ers, after this season is over, can cut Randy Gregory with no penalty and dead money. See $0 right here, $0 in the dead money penalty, and save a whole bunch of money. Or they can keep him, or even better, since you have the team control possibly, is you can hold him as trade bait. You can wait for somebody to say, hey, we need an edge rusher. He's under 49ers team control for 3 years. We better send them a little bit of something, or maybe a lot of something, to pick up Randy Gregory. All their option power is going to depend on how well Randy Gregory plays. But again, he's delivered top 10 metrics in the past for the 49ers, and I can't underscore the importance of Chris Kasarik enough. The 49ers have built a defensive line factory with the best D-line coach in the entire NFL. And he has squeezed the best out of so many different players that are less talented than Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory is a 20-sack guy over the course of his NFL career. To notch that many sacks, you're doing something right. I'm not saying he's an A-list pass rusher, but he's definitely a B-list pass rusher. And he's probably more talented than Charles Omenihu and Sansom Ebukam, players that the 49ers had last year. And they're getting him at a fraction of even that cost, at $840,000 for essentially a 7th-round pick swap with the Denver Broncos. So this is a value signing for the 49ers. And I'll tell you what, this front office is constantly sniffing for value. They're constantly sniffing for low-risk, high-reward moves. Some people had expressed some of the concern about the suspensions in Gregory's past. Those were substance abuse suspensions relating to marijuana testing positive in Randy Gregory's system. But the last time that he missed a season due to those suspensions was 2019, and we're now in 2023. He's since signed a big money contract with Denver. And, the truth is that Denver is paying all of his salary this year. So Denver's taking on all of the risk for Randy Gregory, and they get none of the reward now that they've traded him to the 49ers. The 49ers are taking on none of the risk, and they get all of the potential reward for Randy Gregory. We've seen the New England Patriots run similar style moves, right? When they develop a player in their system and that player signs elsewhere for big money, that player might flame out elsewhere, and then the Patriots bring him back for a bargain deal. Typical kind of dynastic move that we saw from the Patriots over the past couple decades. The 49ers have tried to emulate a lot of what the Patriots have done. They've tried to emulate a lot of what Ozzie Newsome has done with the Baltimore Ravens in terms of comp pick procuration. Or procurement, I guess I should say. I don't think procuration is a word. I said it and it sounded funny. Procurement. They've procured comp picks. They've brought in players who they believe will be banged for their buck in their system. And in this case, there is a direct fit for somebody like Randy Gregory in the 49ers system and on their depth chart. That's the next thing that I want to look at. So the 49ers have just traded for Randy Gregory, and you could take a look at these teams' D-line room. No more Kerry Hyder. They've released him. Maybe they can bring him back onto the practice squad. I don't think they're expecting to be able to, but I don't think that's going to stop them from trying. But Randy Gregory, I think, immediately can slot in behind Drake Jackson, but can ultimately overtake Drake Jackson. If you think by the time he learns the system, he's one of the 49ers' 4 best offensive linemen, well, then he's going to be listed on the first string here. He's not expected to play on Sunday. Gregory did check into the team facility today, passed the physical, but he's flying back to Denver to go retrieve his family, get some of his stuff, and they expect him to be arriving in the Bay Area on Monday for the next week of work. So expect Randy Gregory to debut for the 49ers against the Cleveland Browns. That's the next game after this Sunday night's game against the Dallas Cowboys. But you can see the 49ers love to bring their defensive linemen in waves. They needed a bookend to Nick Bosa. They didn't need a bookend to Nick Bosa in the worst way, but it was one of the 2 or 3 areas on the roster that we said the 49ers could clearly bolster. Now, what's amazing is everybody was crying for a defensive end signing over the course of this offseason, right? I mean, I feel that so many questions about this. So one of the 49ers adding another defensive end. Is this cap space there to add another edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa? That's the one piece the 49ers really need. And one of my predictions was, yes, the 49ers are going to add an edge rusher, but they're going to wait to add a cost-efficient edge rusher. So you had Yannick Ngakoue on the market, and people were like, why don't they add Yannick Ngakoue? And I said, well, it's because he's outside of their cost structure. There's a reason the 49ers are in such financially solid shape, and it's because they don't waste their money. They find ways to make sure their money goes to efficient places. And Yannick Ngakoue ended up signing for $10.5 million. That's something that wouldn't have fit into the 49ers cost structure, would have threatened to put them into cap hell. Somebody like Justin Houston, another veteran, he signed for $3.5 million this offseason. So $10.5 for Yannick, $3.5 million for Justin Houston. They go elsewhere. And then the 49ers swoop in here week 5, pick up Randy Gregory, who I think is more valuable than somebody like Justin Houston at this point in his career. Probably not as valuable as Yannick, but I'll consider him a step above just because of the younger age and the productivity than Justin Houston. They signed him for $840,000. So that is less than $3.5 million. That's certainly less than $10.5 million. There's a reason why the 49ers have the strongest roster in football, because they make smart move after smart move after smart move, and a move with no downside. And I classify this as a no downside move. Yeah, you are losing Kerry Hyder, but they really liked Hyder. They might be able to keep him on the practice squad, but replacement level defensive lineman, right? This is a chance to be way above replacement level with somebody like Randy Gregory, who did terrorize the 49ers as a member of the Cowboys. That was back in the 2021 season. Hurt Jimmy Garoppolo on his shoulder. That was a domino effect move on the 49ers' fortunes, right? And he also had a sack last year when Denver beat the 49ers at Mile High Stadium. So amazing stuff from the 49ers. It's amazing to me that they were the only ones to cut in line, right? The rest of the league would have had a chance to sign Randy Gregory after he was officially released, but he was not officially released. And the 49ers told the Broncos, hey, we'll make you look a little bit better. You don't have to cut this guy. We'll make it look like you got a little bit something back in a trade. and we'll take him off your hands if you handle his salary, because the Broncos were set to handle a bunch of and incur a bunch of dead money anyway, the 14 million. So Denver paying 14 million, 49ers paying 840,000. Randy Gregory is now a 49er. If you want to know a little bit about his game, well, he is a 242-pound edge rusher who can really move, 4'6", 40. But the thing about Randy Gregory, what makes him special, what makes him, one of those players who's not just a guy, is that even at the 242 pounds, which is on the lighter end, which allows him to be a speed rusher, and we know the 49ers have been looking for a speed rushing complement to Nick Bosa, even at that weight, he is able to set an edge against the run. That's what Trent Williams really emphasized today. He said he plays with his hair on fire, so he fits here. He's going to go to the final whistle, so he fits here, but he could set an edge against the run. It's not just a body out there in running situations. So what the 49ers have done, when you look at the depth chart, is they've focused on different skill sets at different spots of this defensive line so that everybody complements each other. Obviously, Nick Bosa can do everything. Eric Armstead is an interior player who in an emergency can play on the outside, but those days look like they're far in the rearview mirror now, especially that Randy Gregory is part of this team. Javon Hargrave is a masterful defensive tackle. Then you have Drake Jackson, who is the young player who's developing, has 3 sacks already. He specializes in rushing the passer. Meanwhile, Clelin Ferrell, who the team added this offseason, also at a bargain rate, he specializes in stopping the run, setting a hard edge against the run. Then you got Randy Gregory, who can do both. So I think ultimately Randy Gregory takes the top spot from Drake Jackson. You could slot him in here with the first string because you're going to have an extremely versatile front four with Javon Kinlaw, Clelin Ferrell, Randy Gregory, and Kevin Givens forming one hell of a second unit. So, I mean, the 49ers, what they're getting out of a player here, to me, for the price that they're paying, which is nothing, again, $840,000 team control through 2026, and, a draft swap that means they keep that value. Because they're not paying anything, this is an almost miraculous ad for the 49ers at this point of the season. Now, more as to what they're getting from Randy Gregory, take a look at this tape, because I'm sure Chris Kasarik signed off on this, and why wouldn't he sign off on this? Randy Gregory is big number 94, and he's coming over the middle, going against center, just plows the center, backs him into Sam Darnold of all people for the vicious sack. Now, the reason I picked this, Randy Gregory can rush up there. I'm hitting Jimmy Garoppolo coming off the edge. But the 49ers in the past under Chris Kasarik, especially as seasons have developed and they start running a bunch of counter moves and they start trying to mix things up, they like to run their defensive ends on these stunts and these games against the interior. Look at 94. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. He's going to rip around with his athleticism and the head of steam that he picks up. Center, a much shorter, stockier guy than him, has no chance. Gregory flattens him and moves right into Sam Darnold. So remember Arden Key when the 49ers picked up Arden Key a few years ago? And Chris Kasarik just made a living out of Arden Key, especially on big third down situations, playing on the inside, rushing on the inside, using his athleticism against those guards. They're going to do the same thing with Randy Gregory. Absolutely. He is built for it, 242 pounds. But again, you see, it's a stocky 242. He can play the run as well. He could destroy centers and Sam Darnold as well with the physical skill set that he has. This is a former second-round pick out of Nebraska, experienced guy, 9th year in the league. And you go through what the 49ers have done on the trade market, and it really has been something phenomenal to witness from this football team. They're constantly sniffing for value, and you could see the value that they have obtained through trades. This list that I have prepared for you does not even include Laken Tomlinson, because that was right before the season started in 2017. They sent a 5th-round pick to Laken Tomlinson in this regime's first year to Detroit, and they got their starting left guard for the next several seasons. So that obviously ended up working out. The Jimmy Garoppolo trade obviously ended up working out for the 49ers, 2nd-round pick to New England. The Emmanuel Sanders trade, I think it was a 3rd and a 4th with a 5th coming back from Denver. That worked out for them in 2019. He helped pave the way to the Super Bowl. 2020, Jordan Willis, defensive lineman. That was a pick swap for the 49ers that they sent. It was with the New York Jets. They sent the 7th round pick over. 7th round pick came back. Jordan Willis ended up paying off for them. He was a hero of the divisional playoff game at Lambeau Field. Charles Omenihu, they sent the 6th rounder to the Houston Texans in 2021. That really paid off for the 49ers. I mean, he owned Tyron Smith in that playoff game against the Cowboys late that season. Then there's Christian McCaffrey. That's obviously paid off for the 49ers. That was a really big swing in 2022. And finally, Randy Gregory. That right there, minus Gregory, because it's still TBD on him. But what you saw up there, and I'll put it back up on the screen one more time, that is a 100% success rate as far as in-season trades goes. Tomlinson, Garoppolo, Sanders, Willis, Omenihu, McCaffrey. We'll see how Gregory does, but the 49ers have had a 100% success rate as far as in-season trade goes. And it just is a reminder to how idiotic some of these takes were over the years. Oh, the 49ers, it's just John Lynch is just doing his due diligence. He won't actually do anything. 49ers just sit on their hands. They don't make any bold moves. Folks, this team has spent more than anybody in the NFL since the 49ers hired this regime, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And this team has made more in-season trades than anybody in the NFL. They've been even more aggressive than the Los Angeles Rams, who developed the reputation as being the ultra aggressive team in the NFL. And the 49ers have done all of this while not heading into salary cap hell. That's how well they've managed all of their assets. And when you're picking up players for pennies on the dollar like this, when you're the only team willing to pick up the phone and call the Denver Broncos before they officially release Randy Gregory, when you're the only team willing to pick up the phone and call the Carolina Panthers before they're willing to release Zane Gonzalez, these are all moves with no downside and only upside. Well, then eventually you're going to start to see the return. You're going to start to see the benefits, and they're showing up on the 49ers financial sheet right now. They're showing up in terms of this roster, which is looking as strong as ever. I anticipate Gregory is going to be ready to go for the Cleveland game next week. It's simpler to play defensive line in this 49ers system than it is to play in a lot of systems around the league. You put your hand in the dirt and you go after the quarterback. There isn't a lot of reading. There's a lot of attacking. Makes it a popular place for D linemen. And because of that, because Randy Gregory gets to play in this popular place for D linemen, because he gets to attack, because he gets to play next to Nick Bosa or opposite Nick Bosa, next to Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, there's a chance that he puts up big numbers this year. And if he does put up big numbers for the 49ers this year, they have team control in 2024, 2025, 2026. That is the essence of option power. The 49ers certainly have it in this situation because of their addition of a cost-efficient defensive end, as the 49ers front office just sniffs for value. So bottom line is the 49ers just added a pass rusher who's delivered top 10 metrics in his NFL career. Those of you just joining, this is, I think, the key as far as performance for Randy Gregory. Pass rushing productivity, pressures, sacks, hits, all that good stuff. Ranks out of about 55 edge rushers. 2020 through 2022, Randy Gregory, a top 10 guy. 2022 before the knee injury, number 4. Now, maybe he's still slow coming off the knee injury. I don't know why he started slow, but what I do know is that Chris Kasarik had a chance to watch the tape and he said, bring him in at that flyer rate. It doesn't matter why you started slow, to be honest. If this is a guy that delivered what he did in 2021, and 2022, and you have a chance to bring him in at no cost with no downside, you absolutely do it. That's what the 49ers have done. They still have over $40 million of salary cap space, the most in the league. They've re-signed Nick Bosa. They added Javon Hargrave. They've added Randy Gregory. The offense has a potential MVP candidate here that they didn't have at this time of last season in Christian McCaffrey. 49ers might not even be done. I don't know if Denver is going to be in total fire sale mode. I don't know exactly what led to them deciding they needed to get rid of Randy Gregory, but everybody's talking about Patrick Surtain. Is it possible? I suppose. But again, we're still early in this process. It's October 6th right now. The Randy Gregory wheels got moving sooner than the trade deadline, which is still about 3 weeks away. So as the trade deadline gets closer, maybe the 49ers will start to highlight some other positions of need, and they still have the same 11 draft picks they had before, with the exception of that 6-7 swap with Denver today. So they still have plenty of ammunition, both from a draft capital standpoint and from a financial standpoint, as far as determining, who gets all that salary cap money. They still have plenty of capital on both ends to be able to make another move. Big day for the 49ers before they play the Dallas Cowboys. Will they beat the Cowboys? Well, I don't know if I'm going to answer that question on this video because that wouldn't be the most customary thing to do. But that being said, you do need to make sure that you see this article right here. Another 49ers Cowboys war of words, not ahead of this next showdown. 49, and I mean, it's funny. Micah Parsons is in the background. It's not Randy Gregory, who wore number 94 with Dallas, but Gregory was one of the co-rushers for Micah Parsons, who has done some talking in the history of this rivalry. And I did talk a little bit about the talking that has happened in this rivalry. I went back to 1990, where Jimmy Johnson said this right here. "We will win the ball game," Jimmy Johnson said. And you could put it in 3-inch headlines. Then George Seifert, who was the 49ers coach, responded by saying, "Well, the man's got balls, I'll tell you that. I don't know if they're brass or paper mache. We'll find out here pretty soon." What if Kyle Shanahan questioned whether or not Mike McCarthy's balls were made of brass or paper mache? That's what the 1990s were between these two teams. You know what else happened in the 1990s? A guy named Charles Haley moved from the 49ers to the Cowboys. Edge rusher changed teams. Now, this is not the same magnitude of move, and Randy Gregory went to the Broncos in between the Cowboys and the 49ers. But the main point is that big-time edge rushers, you want them on your team. And Randy Gregory has shown the potential of a big-time edge rusher. This is from my center stage piece, 49ers Cowboys. That's Charles Haley terrorizing Steve Young in the 1993 season. That was after Jimmy Johnson was guaranteeing a victory, and him and George Seifert were talking all that crap toward each other. But Haley's move from the 49ers to the Cowboys marked a transition of power, a shift in the balance of power between the 49ers and Dallas. Now, apples and oranges situation, I get it, but I'm still talking about edge rushers changing teams. I think the 49ers own the balance of power right now against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are desperately trying to get it back. The 49ers are just trying to stay ahead in the arms race atop the NFC, obviously, with the Philadelphia Eagles also part of the mix. How do you stay ahead? Well, you make value signings that keep you salary cap sustainable with players who will fit into your system, who you think you could scrounge a lot of value out of. And that's who Randy Gregory is for the 49ers. He gets to work with Chris Kasarik now. That's a good news for everybody involved on the San Francisco side. All right, time for 49ers Q&A. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to grab my water. Mike says, smash that like button. I do agree with him. Questions can roll in. I've got a little bit of time here. Let's have some fun with this. Randy Gregory did commit 3 of the 14 penalties on Dallas in that 2021 wildcard game. Yes, but he didn't commit the most boneheaded play of the game, and that falls on Dak Prescott, who tried to run up the middle without any timeouts and then think that it would be safe to have enough time to get this another snap and the spike off. So that was just a sloppy game from Dallas. I found that a lot of times undisciplined teams create environments in which players commit penalties, and then the more disciplined teams and locker rooms kind of squeeze penalties out of players. I think the 49ers firmly believe that Randy Gregory within their system is going to be doing a lot of good stuff, and there won't be boneheaded errors. And even if it doesn't work out, they didn't lose anything, right? It's only upside at this point for the 49ers. Christopher Lockwood, are the 49ers going to trade for Surtain? That would be like Dion in 94. I don't know if Denver is willing to part with Patrick Surtain. I know they just signed Randy Gregory last season, but Surtain's on the rookie deal. And even if Denver is terrible, I think they might see him as a foundational piece. I have heard that he's untouchable. That being said, every man has his price. The 49ers do still have some capital to spend. And I do think that they're a little precariously thin at that cornerback position, especially with Charvarius Ward dealing with that heel issue that has been afflicting him since week 1. So let's keep our eyes open on that. Teammates matter. Randy Gregory never had Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Eric Armstead. But the question is he very much better than Drake Jackson, Kerry Hyder? Well, the metrics suggest he's a lot better than both of those guys, right? I mean, here's your question is answered right here. This is the ranks for Randy Gregory, pass rushing wise, out of 55 qualifying edge rushers. Number 8 in 2020, number 10 in 2021, number 4 in 2022. I mean, that's top level stuff. Now, have there been issues? Yes, I think a bigger issue than the suspensions because those happened so long ago. And Kyle Shanahan said they vetted this guy and they're getting only positive marks on him. I think a bigger issue than that has been the knee injury last season. So because he like I showed here, he hasn't been as good since the knee injury, but it's been a tiny sample, and Denver's a really bad team this year. So we'll see. He went from number 4 to number 42, though, before and after that knee injury. So if you're getting 2020 to 2022 Randy Gregory, then yes, he's better than Kerry Hyder Jr. for sure. Drake Jackson, still developing, has had a decent start to this season. We'll see if he's better than that. But I think it's a very reasonable bet here for the 49ers, again, because of the very limited, if not non-existent, downside. Kyle Shanahan said that Gregory doesn't expect Gregory to play this weekend. He's flying back to Denver now, going to pack up his stuff. Passed his physical. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. This trade is done. The 49ers have released Kerry Hyder, but there still is some logistical stuff to take care of for Randy Gregory, so he should be in the facility by Monday. All right, let's talk. Any questions about Randy Gregory? I could put the tape back on. I think we're going to see plenty of him rushing against the interior this year. I think Chris Sarek is going to get creative as the season goes along. Now, the nice thing is it's not a rush for the 49ers to start doing crazier stuff like this because this team can win games even without digging all too deep into its playbook. The 49ers are trying to peak in December, January, and potentially even February. They're not trying to peak right now. Now they have a big game on Sunday, though. It's funny. They probably just brought Randy Gregory in to neutralize the hopeless disadvantage that they have because Trey Lance is spilling all their secrets. I actually tweeted that and I had to put the little /S, meaning sarcasm, on the internet because there actually are people believing and there are people pushing this narrative that Trey Lance is going to completely ruin the 49ers because of the information he is giving to Dallas Cowboys. So I joked that the 49ers had to one-up him by bringing in both Anthony Brown, the former Dallas Cowboys cornerback, who was with the team for 7 years, joined the team around the same time as Randy Gregory, and Randy Gregory, who obviously has some knowledge of Dallas. But, I mean, there's so many reasons and so many ways to poke holes in the theory that Trey Lance is somehow going to help the Cowboys beat the 49ers, including the fact that Mike McDaniel, who obviously knows the 49ers offense much better than Trey Lance since he built so much of the offense, Mike McDaniel was not able to help his new Miami Dolphins team against the 49ers offense last season. Brock Purdy actually lit up Mike McDaniel's Miami Dolphins last year. Gregory had that injury fairly early last season. It's been almost 1 calendar year. So I want to do a little bit more research into that injury. I'm guessing it was an MCL or something like that because he did have surgery. It was meniscus. Randy Gregory will undergo arthroscopic surgery to trim the meniscus in his injured knee and is expected to miss a couple weeks. His ACL was intact, but he did end up missing a lot of time for the Denver Broncos. I'm reading a little bit more about that injury right now. He did return for 2 games in December. So he had the surgery, missed 9 games, returned in December, and then finished the year on IR. So started the season really well, ended the season on IR, had surgery midstream, and hasn't played as well this year. That's the book on Randy Gregory, but it's a tiny sample, terrible team, And again, the big thing is that Chris Kasarik signed off on this trade. If Chris Kasarik wanted the 49ers to do it, it's probably worth it, right? And again, it wasn't a high bar to clear. They're not paying anything for him. It's a 6th-round pick swap, essentially. I would say a 6-7 pick swap. They're sending their 6, the 49ers, to Denver. Denver is sending their 7. The 49ers are good, so their 6 is going to be a low 6th-rounder. Denver is bad, so their 7 is going to be a high 7th-rounder. It could be a matter of 2 or 3 picks for all we know, right? And Denver's picking up all of his salary except for the prorated minimum. So $840,000. That's all it cost the 49ers. All. That's it. So I think the cap hit probably stays the same because I think Kerry Hyder was making the league minimum this year, maybe a little bit more. And Randy Gregory, people saying Randy Gregory's never had teammates like this. Randy Gregory's never been a locker room problem. That's another thing. Yeah, he failed a drug test and he's missed time because of that. He's never been a problem in the locker room. That's a complete misconception. Kyle Shanahan says that he knows a lot of people that knew how Gregory was in a locker room in Dallas and Denver. Trent Williams spoke of him today. Matt Pryor, who played against Randy Gregory in the NFC, spoke of him. The 49ers, I mean, the common refrain is, and Eric Armstead knows him because they were drafted the same year. The common refrain is that this guy is good in the locker room. So they're really excited to have him come in. George Peterson. Dallas hasn't faced an opponent of this elite level, and I suspect this is why they're constantly chirping while the 49ers just humbly grind. Well, I think that Dallas is also, they've scaled back the chirping a bit. They're complimenting the 49ers. The bottom line is that Dallas is in a situation where they have to get over a psychological hump. So they're going to be trying all kinds of different things. The 49ers have controlled both of the playoff meetings over the last 2 seasons against Dallas, just the way it is. And Dallas needs to reverse that to have any chance of winning a Super Bowl. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Dallas because if they don't win this weekend, then it's really going to be in their heads. And they could have a great rest of the regular season, but if you can't beat the 49ers and you lose again this weekend, well, that's just going to be this albatross hanging over Dallas entering the postseason. So really important for them to try to win this game. I don't think it's nearly as important for the 49ers. I think it's just one game for the 49ers, but I get it. To the fans, this is a big deal, and everybody wants to win. For the 49ers, I mean, they want to get that 1 seed. So anything that can help you do that, obviously you're going to want to win. I just think that this takes on outsized importance for Dallas. How do you know that Pollard was going to have a game last year? I mean, everybody says that. Everybody says, oh, yeah, Tony Pollard was going to be great. I mean, it was the number 1 defense in the league that he was going up against. I think the 49ers deserve some benefit of the doubt on that front. But Pollard is a good player, and he's different than James Conner, the running back who the 49ers faced last week. It's going to bring more quickness and more speed to the table than the power back Conner from last week. I think the 49ers might prefer facing that, though, than a big bruiser like James Conner. Nobody likes to absorb the bruises from a 233-pounder. Ricardo, am I worried about McCaffrey's workload with Mitchell's injury? Well, I mean, Jordan Mason could get a bigger workload in this game, and I think the 49ers, I've talked about this a lot. I think you're going to try to run more power against the Dallas Cowboys because in the first half last year, when the 49ers only averaged 2.5 per carry, they were trying to do a lot of perimeter running. And that worked in 2021. The Cowboys, who are good in pursuit, really adjusted toward that in 2022. So if you're going to run more power, and in the second half, the 49ers average 4.1 per carry because they made that adjustment, Elijah Mitchell's probably not your preferred backup. I think Jordan Mason is. So Mitchell is out, but I think that for this particular game plan, that plays right into the 49ers' hands because you'd rather have the bigger 225, 230-pounder running the power than Elijah Mitchell. Did the Denver Broncos and 49ers front offices just become best friends? Well, there have been a lot of trades between the Broncos and the 49ers, right? Dakota Watson, Jonas Griffith. It's Mike McGlinchey signed with the Broncos after being with the 49ers. Seems like there's some decent rapport between both front offices. John Lynch obviously used to play for the Broncos. Adam Peters came from the Denver front office. They let the 49ers hire him away. So at around trade time, always look at both the 49ers and the Broncos. Look at those two teams and say, hey, they might get some business done. And I know that's going to keep on fueling the Surtain discussion. The thing is, if Surtain is untouchable, if Denver doesn't want to let him go, then it's a non-starter despite how good their relationship with the 49ers front office is. If Gregory performs well, what would a long-term contract look like? Well, here it is. The 49ers already have Randy Gregory under contract until 2026 because they just inherited the contract that Denver signed with him last season. So he's got a base salary of $13.745 million in 2024, $12.745 million in 2025, plus a $1 million roster bonus. The roster bonus is due on March 19th. And then same thing, $13.75 million total between the base and the roster bonus in 2026. If he has a monster year and the 49ers are like, well, we really want him as our second edge rusher because he's so good, that might be a fair price. And they could take it year by year, kind of like Christian McCaffrey. There's a lot of flexibility here for the 49ers. Because none of this money is guaranteed, they can also try to renegotiate Randy Gregory's deal. They can say, hey, we're in a tight salary cap situation. We can't pay you $13.745 million, but we can pay you $8 million. Are you willing to take $8 million? Randy Gregory says no, but I can take $9 million. Okay, fine. They get him at a discount of about $5 million for $4.745 million underneath the price. Or they can dangle him out as trade bait. The bottom line is that having a player under team control is more valuable than if his contract just ended after 2023. So I think that a potentially valuable part of this trade for the 49ers has been the extra team control that they've gotten from Randy Gregory. Now, I asked Kyle Shanahan about that in the press conference today, and he said, I haven't even thought about that, but I assume that it is a positive. The 49ers are in win now mode. And I would say that they're pushing all their chips to the middle of the table, except they didn't push any chips in. This was just like a free play ticket for Randy Gregory. The 49ers are just more industrious than other teams. They're willing to cut the line. Denver was going to release him. That had already been reported. And the 49ers called up George Paton and they said, hey, before you release this guy, let's just work on a trade so nobody else can sign him and we can inherit him at a cheap contract. Because the Broncos were set to incur a bunch of dead money regardless. So there's nothing to lose for the Broncos. But if you maintain good relationships around the league, and it seems that John Lynch has, you can cut the line like this. You can steal a player like the 49ers just did for no cost with Randy Gregory. They did that with Zane Gonzalez. Now, remember the plan was Zane over the offseason was they would have two kickers. It'd be Zane and Jake Moody. And then they thought that they would be able to trade Zane Gonzalez at the roster cut down because Jake Moody would be their kicker. The problem is that Zane got hurt right before the roster cut down. So they were never able to bring that plan into fruition. But it still illustrates what I was talking about. It was a no-risk plan. So they were simply able to cut Zane Gonzalez with an injury settlement, and that was that. He rode off into the sunset. Everybody ended up happy. No downside to the 49ers. Unfortunately to them, they were never able to realize the upside. But I think with Randy Gregory, they're in a good position to realize some upside here because they need that second edge rusher. It's been a point of concern on this defense, or at least a point of this could be better. And that's why so many people over so many months were talking about, the 49ers need to add another edge rusher. Well, there's so many guys sitting out there. Why aren't they going after Yannick Ngakoue? Why aren't they going after Justin Houston? Why aren't they going after Jadeveon Clowney? And I said, guys, because this team can't just sign everybody at the money that they want. There's a reason they're in a good, healthy salary cap situation. They're not in cap hell like other aggressive teams have found themselves in, like the Rams. And it's because the 49ers do not overpay B-list players. And nobody's saying Randy Gregory is an A-lister, but he's definitely a B-lister. Yannick Ngakoue, B-lister. Somebody like Justin Houston, probably a C-lister at this point, is a little bit older. 49ers aren't willing to overpay for those guys. Ngakoue signed for $10.5 million elsewhere. Justin Houston signed for $3.5 million elsewhere. And now the 49ers bring in Randy Gregory for $840,000. Just do the math. It's simple econ, right? Simple business, I guess I should say. They're getting players at a lower rate than anybody else. They're not giving up their valuable draft capital, essentially, because they're only running these 6-7 pick swaps. And then they are letting their coaching staff let loose with development. Chris Kasarik has developed Arden Key and made him a lot of money. He's developed Charles Omenihu, made him a lot of money. He's developed Jordan Willis, got him a pay raise. He's obviously worked with Nick Bosa, with Eric Armstead. There's a lot of players that have thrived under Chris Kasarik, and the 49ers hope that Randy Gregory is the next one on that list. The 49ers 2024 NFL draft remains intact. They have 11 picks still. Let's take a look at this. This is big right here. The 49ers picks in this upcoming draft. I tweeted this out a little bit earlier. By the way, the article on Randy Gregory is up on the description. We covered everything from the finances to the draft capital impact, which I'm about to share with you right now. So you can sign up to The Athletic and check that out. I am finding the list of 49ers draft picks for you. Boy, I've been tweeting a lot today. I suppose it's not surprising. Okay, here we go. So, these are the 49ers draft picks in the 2024 draft. And I talk about them having a lot of expenses coming up because they've done all these restructures and they've pushed so much of the cap bill back with the restructures and the Nick Bosa backloaded contract. So it's going to be really important that the 49ers hit with this NFL draft. Like, really important that they hit with this NFL draft, because the draft is the way that you obtain B-list talent to fill out the margins of your team on a cost-controlled basis. And if you don't hit with your draft picks, at least the majority of them, and the 49ers have done a great job with that regard so far, but if you don't hit with your draft picks, stuff starts to get expensive because you start having to turn to free agency. You start having to make up for the whiffs, right? If the 49ers whiffed on Trey Lance, if you consider him a whiff, well, they made up for it through the draft with Brock Purdy. They didn't have to get expensive in free agency. So anyway, the long-term 49ers roster outlook is dependent on them hitting in this draft. It's a really, really big one. So the fact that they only had to give up a 6th-round pick and then were able to get a 7th-round pick in return, and you could see this on the screen, they lose that number 9 pick and they pick up that number 12 pick, means they still have 11 picks in the 2024 draft. And that's massive for a football team looking to replenish itself through that draft. And they're not done yet. They're going to continue sniffing for value. It's October 6th. It's Fleet Week in San Francisco. So there's still a lot of time for the 49ers to pick up another player or two if that opportunity presents itself ahead of the deadline. Randy Gregory was cut loose, or the Broncos were planning to cut him loose a little bit sooner than the deadline would have dictated. So because of that, the 49ers had some extra time here to get him a little bit earlier. He's going to be in uniform by that Cleveland game next week, but there still is more time on the calendar for the 49ers to pick up another player. You just have to let it organically materialize by the trade deadline. All right, 49 minutes. That's what I was shooting for. 49. I'm sure a lot of you left there. That was my fault. 49 minutes is exactly what I was shooting for, though. 49ers pick up Randy Gregory, and I messed up there at the end by closing out the screen. Essentially for free. Randy Gregory, essentially for free. Top 10 metrics as an edge rusher. Keep their draft ambitions alive. All right, that's it. I got to head downtown. I got business to take care of in San Francisco. We'll talk to everybody soon.